Hello and welcome back to Technical Writing or Business Writing. Today we're going to talk about applying for a job. This lecture is actually going to be divided into two videos. In this first video, we're going to talk about what employers want, how to find your professional brand, finding the right job, and job application letters. And then in part two, we're going to talk about resumes, resume design, and then job interviews. So let's start with what employers are looking for in potential employees. They want somebody who is honest and who is hardworking. The expectation is if you are at work, you're working during work time. They also want employees that are technically competent. This just means if you say, hey, I know how to use this computer program, for example, that you actually do know how to use it. But they're also looking for employees that are skilled at solving problems. It is unrealistic to expect any employee to know how to do everything. So if you come across a problem or something that you need to know that you don't, or a new technology, how is it that you are going to implement that? Or what resources do you have available to you? How good are you at finding information to help you solve your problems? This is probably just as important, if not more important, than being technically competent. They also want people who are able to work effectively and work well in teams. So make sure that you have the ability to work well with others. We're all going to be in a situation at some point where we have to work with somebody who we may not prefer. The trick is that person should never know that. We should be able to work so effectively in teams that our personal preferences never get in the way of our work performance. Employers are also looking for people who are willing to share information with others. If you have something that helps you do your job well, don't keep that to yourself. Share it with others. Share information. Going about your day as if this is a team assignment and you want everybody to do at least as well as you are doing. Employers also want people who are eager to keep learning. There's always new advances, new technology, new materials out there. So just that person who always wants to be up to date. So you can really think about how can you show your employer or your potential employer that you possess these attributes. What marketable skills can you talk about? How can you share these competencies that you have? One of the ways that you can really make yourself attractive to potential employers is by establishing your professional brand. And let's talk about what this might look like. So essentially the idea, especially in lots of business settings, is that you should always be looking for work. Even if you're gainfully employed, think about, is there a better position out there? What are other companies doing? Even if you're not planning on leaving your company, it is important to know what else is out there. And sometimes a better offer does come along that might be worth leaving your company. Think about, is there a time that you would turn down a better job and for what reason? Is there a time that you would leave your current job and for what reason? Just be thinking about this. Employees and employers have a little bit of a different relationship than they did in previous generations. There used to be sort of this setup where you got a job, you had company loyalty, and you stayed with that company until you retired. That's not realistically what the workplace looks like today. Employers are always changing things up and looking at what should be done in-house versus what should be outsourced, and employees should also be aware of what else is out there. It's a good idea to just kind of have a constant desire for improvement. And one of the ways that you can do that is by establishing your personal brand. This is more than just a resume, and it has the potential to pay off big in the long run. So here's some things that you can do. Research. What have other people in your field done? What professional development are they doing? What courses are they taking? What degrees are they seeking? How are they educating themselves? What conferences are they going to? What are they doing professionally that improves their brand? Tell the truth. What are you struggling with and what are you doing really great at? A lot of times employers want to know this. Communicate professionally. This class is a great start to learn how to, communicate in written business and technical documents, but there are things that you can do to improve just your speaking skills or your speech skills, that sort of things. There are books that you can read that can really help motivate you to improve that professional brand. Think about your job skills. What is it that you can do? And a lot of times this includes more than just the one thing that we may get paid to do. So, for example, maybe, I get paid to teach, but I also have to develop curriculum. I have to go to meetings. I have to work on committees. I have to analyze data, right? So if all I said was I can teach, I may miss an opportunity that really focuses in on one of the other skills that I have learned within this job. And even if you've never had a job, there are skills that you possess that you can offer to an employer. You can think about communication skills, critical thinking skills, research skills, the ability to work effectively in teams. All of those are things that you can use to build your professional brand. A lot of times people think in terms of like job experience, but really if you focus on problem solving and accomplishments, you can show that you have a lot more to bring to the table. So let's talk about how you can present your professional brand. One of the things that you can do is create a strong online presence. You can have a website or an online portfolio. This has become way more prevalent in today's society. This is a good way for people to sort of present who they are to the world. Participate in LinkedIn or other social medias. Social media is always changing, developing, shifting. So just being aware of those trends. Create a business card, either a print business card or an electronic business card, and then create and practice your elevator pitch. This is a brief summary of your credentials that's given in less than 20 seconds. When somebody says, what do you do, or what have you learned, or what do you have to offer, you should have answers ready to go. So let's talk about your online presence. According to Career Builder, 52% of companies research an applicant's social media presence. And this is just the official number. I'm sure lots of hiring managers do this, and this is not like an official part of the hiring process. But 52% of companies have this as an official part of their hiring process. This can have both positive and negative consequences depending on your social media presence. So let's talk about how social media can help. So employers are glad to find background information that supports job qualifications. A lot of times they want to see personality that fits with sort of like the company culture. So for example, I have a friend whose company culture includes like softball tournaments. They have a company softball team, and that's important to them. And they have sort of this theory of like, the team that plays together stays together, and they actually devote company time to this activity, right? So maybe your personality is going to fit in really well with this company, and social media can be a way to highlight that. If you have a professional looking portfolio or website, that can show that. If you have great communication skills, if you're creative, all of these things can be demonstrated by good use of social media. But you have to be aware of what your social media can do negatively too. So employers have shied away from applicants where social media includes like provocative or inappropriate photos. If there's suggestions of drug or alcohol abuse, if every single picture you have on your social media profile, you have an alcoholic beverage in your hand, that might indicate something to an employer. That's not necessarily indicative of whether or not you have a drinking problem, but somebody might make that assumption. So you just want to be aware what you're putting out there. If an employer goes to somebody's social media and there's a lot of negative comments about a coworker or a former employer, that can leave a bad taste in a hiring manager's mouth. If there's poor communication skills, and then the last one I have up here should seem obvious, but obviously do not ever post any derogatory comments about race or gender or religion or anything like that on your social media. If you struggle with thinking racist or misogynistic or homophobic or Islamophobic thoughts, there are resources for education that are available to you, but it is shocking how many people put this stuff on their social media and then are surprised when they lose their job or don't get another job or lose their position in the military or lose their scholarship or are kicked out of school. It should go without saying to never put these things on social media, but people still do. Please do not be that person. So that's kind of how you can build your professional brand. Now let's talking about how do you find the job that you want? How do you find the right position for you? So when you start your job search, there are some things that you will want to do. First of all, do a self-inventory. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What subjects do you like? What kind of organization is it that you want to work for? Some people want to work for the company that has the softball team where everybody is friends and, they have like potluck lunches and they get along well, and that's an important part of their company atmosphere. Other people want to work for a company where you clock in at 8 o'clock and you clock out at 5 and you don't think about your job except for those hours, and work people are work people and your personal life is kept completely separate. Some people want that type of organization. So just think about what is it that I'm looking for? What are your geographical preferences? Obviously maybe you want to stay close to home because you have elderly parents, or maybe, your kids are in a great school and you don't want to change their school, or maybe you're open to moving to other parts of the country or the world. So think about that. And then what do you want in return for your employment? Are you looking just at salary? Are you looking at benefits? Is it more important to you to work for an ethical company? What about a sense of purpose? Are you picking a job because of what you feel like it offers to your community and to your world? There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. This is going to depend on you, on who you are as a person, and on what you want out of your job. So think about this. What is it that's important to you, and how do you find that in your position? And then learn about potential employers. There's some ways that you can do this, especially as a recent graduate. There's lots of job affairs. Go out, attend those job affairs. Even if you're just trying to learn what is out there and talk to different companies, research trends in your field. Where are things going? Where aren't things going? It matters in the world. I had a friend who switched from petroleum engineering to mechanical engineering as his major, because he was thinking 20, 30, 40 years down the line, are we still going to be, mainly using fossil fuels, or is the industry shifting, right? So think about, where is your field going, and then read industry related publications. That's a good place to sort of get some of that information. So then you're going to want to create your documents and online resources. Prepare a resume and a cover letter. You should have one ready to go, but we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can update your resume in the next lecture video, but it's a good idea to have one kind of at the ready. And then also work on that portfolio or website online. We're going to work on that this semester. Understand job search strategies. Look at organizations' websites. What is it that they're looking for? How do they hire? Do they hire mostly within? Do they hire mostly external candidates? You can check internet job boards. You can find industry-specific sites. And one of the most important things that you can do is network. Meet people, develop relationships with people in the field. And this is one of the best ways to grow your professional brand and help you find the right jobs. Who do you know that can help you? So once you find a job that you want to apply for, one of the things that you will do is create a job application letter. And there's a couple of different types of job application letters that we're going to go over, and you're going to have the opportunity to practice writing one of these in the course. So the first one is called a cover letter, or also sometimes called a job application letter. This is a business letter, like we talked about in the last lecture video. It's going to follow that format, and in this letter, the applicant can explain in letter format how their qualifications match the organization's requirement. And then a resume is always going to be sent with your cover letter. This is your introduction to the hiring manager. So cover letters aren't going to include as many specific details as a resume, but you're going to emphasize some key points. So it may not necessarily matter what years you went to your university, but rather what you studied or what your degree was in. And then cover letters also include a specific request for an interview. And then a transmittal letter is a subtype of a cover letter, and usually it's mailed in a package along with a lot of other documents. So for example, if you have to include quite a few documents in your application, sometimes you'll include a transmittal letter. So if you have questions about what we talked about today, make sure that you reach out. I'm always happy to help. I also put some really good resources in our online classroom. Please make sure that you are checking those out too.